Welcome, everyone, to A Call for Judgment. I always report on bad news. I always pretty much talk about, I specifically really only talk about these things to show you what the government's doing, what agendas are being pushed. And I know it could be draining. So I actually found a positive story, at least as far as positivity of pushing back against this New World Order agenda. And that is a story that comes out of Detroit, Rock City, where a Detroit City Council has passed a bill that requires Detroit businesses to accept cash payments or face fines. And it's what they're calling it is the cashless ban, because somebody tried to make a purchase with cash, of course, because that's, a completely insane notion. And a lot of people in Detroit, they say 20% of people in Detroit don't have bank accounts, which is wonderful. But somebody tried to make a purchase of groceries or food with cash, and they were denied. Believe it or not, that's how insane this is. Take a look at the story out of Detroit.
Detroit City Council voted today unanimously to approve an ordinance banning cashless businesses.
This ordinance is one step in helping the unbanked be full members of the local economy. No Detroiter will be left behind. The cashless ban ordinance is the first step in a much larger struggle to have all Detroit residents fully engaged in the local economy.
That was Councilwoman Angela Whitfield Callaway, who introduced the ordinance after trying to make a purchase with cash at Plum Market, only to be denied. She cited a recent University of Michigan study that found 18 to 23% of Detroit residents don't have bank accounts, and many are unable to obtain credit or debit cards. The ordinance will take effect on September 11th to ensure that businesses have enough time to take the appropriate steps.
So this is actually good news, right? Because if we can push back and resist against a cashless society, then that means that people, that we don't have, look, everybody is just like, doesn't understand the notion of a cashless. They're like, what's the big deal? People use their credit cards and stuff. Well, once everything is cashless, once you can't use cash, you can't escape. You can't escape them, which means you have to have a bank account, which means that they have access to track and monitor every purchase that you make, every single thing that you do. So being able to use cash still keeps you free in a sense. Does it make you part of the system? Yeah, but it's as close to bartering as we're going to get this day and age, because nobody has trades anymore, right? Bartering, for the youngsters out there that don't know, bartering would be like, an example would be like, you're a farmer. You make, let's say you get corn and you make bread or something, right? You have wheat. Okay, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a welder and I make knives or something. Well, you would make an exchange, right? Give you 2 knives, you give me 10 loaves of bread, whatever would be equal currency in the trade, right? That's bartering. You have a barter system. Everybody who has a trade, then you're able to barter, and society is able to function that way. It's actually the way the society should function, because everybody should have a skill set. People used to go town to town if, finding a place that needed their trade, and they would settle in that town, right? If you were a welder and there was a town with 2 welders, then you might go to a town that needs a welder, so that you can barter, and have a bartering, off something to offer people to get something in exchange, right? Now, obviously, we have this beast system. We have the Federal Reserve, and obviously cash is corrupt. I'm not saying that this is great from that standpoint, but this is a good story from the standpoint of pushing back against them forcing a cashless society on everyone, because then suddenly your cash becomes worthless. So if you're storing cash in your mattress, it becomes worthless. And they want to force everybody into their system. They want you to have a digital identity. Okay, this has to do with the mark of the beast system. They want you to be fully online, fully monitored, and fully controlled, because if you have everything digitally, then the government has the ability to freeze your account. And then people are like, oh, why would they ever freeze my account? Well, they'll freeze your account if they don't like the way that you dress. They could do whatever they want. People think it's crazy, but they will freeze people's accounts based on their political backgrounds, based on things they post on social media, all that type of stuff. And that's why they want and are hell-bent on getting everything digital. So a Detroit City Council on Tuesday passed an ordinance requiring businesses in the city to accept cash as a form of payment. Council members approved the cashless ban in a 9-0 vote, which is very promising, that requires businesses to take cash or offer devices such as kiosks that transfer cash into cards at no fee, and requiring no more than $5 as a minimum deposit. Now, that's the caveat there that I don't like to see, because this is just it's very deceptive. Having these, if you haven't seen them before, they have them in like baseball stadiums now. So they'll have a cashless store, and they'll have these kiosk set up. So you go up to the kiosk, you put $5 in, and a gift card pops out. And then you go up to at the end and you have to pay with the gift card. So this is a transition, but at the same time, at least there's some wordage out there about, how we cannot go cashless yet, how there's too many people who don't have bank accounts. That's really what, that's the focus of me doing this video, is that people need to be aware of that and aware of what they're really trying to do. Now, again, they're going to put these kiosks all over, but that's more of a big business thing, getting these kiosks. Like a small business owner, and I've covered this before, a lot of small business owners are going cashless because they're trying to be trendy, et cetera. They're not going to buy one of these kiosk machines, okay? These kiosk machines are going to be in baseball stadiums, concerts, those types of venues. They're not going to be in, a small boutique store in your rural town, or even a small, suburban, strip mall that's trying to be cool, say a video game store or something like that. They're still not going to buy the kiosk and pay all that money for the kiosk. They'll just go, well, we might as well accept cash because I don't want to pay, X amount of money a month to rent this thing. And then I got to buy all the cards. And then I got to get this type of, an app or whatever put onto our main database. So it's too much of a, complication for many small business owners. It'll be in big venues, but there is a transition in place, and that's the transition for people to go cashless. But for the time being, if more and more people push back and say, look, I don't have a bank account, it's a free country, I don't need to have a bank account, there's no law that says I have to have a bank account. Well, eventually they're going to try to do that, but the longer we can push back, the better. Council member Angela Whitfield Callaway proposed what she called a very simple ordinance. Accept cash. The cashless business ordinance will help over 100,000 Detroit residents who are unbanked have equal access to goods and services in every part of the city. Violating the ordinance could result in a misdemeanor with a penalty of $500 and 90 days in jail. The ordinance does not affect home-based businesses. So obviously they don't probably care about the $500 fine, but 90 days in jail is enough to probably make some of these business owners start accepting cash again. And if you're new to all this stuff, you might be like, where are their cashless stores? There's a lot of cashless stores, a lot. I've covered many over the years of just small places that are doing this. Obviously, and I've covered some like Subways and stuff that were going cashless in certain outside of just small cities, I guess I should say. And those places probably will get a kiosk because Subway will probably provide them with the kiosk. But again, small business owners are not going to go and remove cash now because in this area, at least now, because they're not going to want to pay for it. So exceptions include transactions conducted by mail, phone, or online, along with parking garages, membership-based wholesale clubs, businesses that rent consumer goods, and prearranged payments for rideshare services that exclusively operate on a mobile device. The ordinance will be effective on September 11th to allow to allow businesses to time to adjust as needed. Grant time to adjust. Like a business needs time to adjust to accepting cash. All you do is have change on hand, and then when somebody comes in with cash, you give them change. It's not that hard of a system. You don't really need time to adjust. I guess Gen Z needs time to adjust because they don't know how to count on their own. Graham Anderson from the city's law department said there currently is no other penalty for the code violation other than a misdemeanor, but emphasized that the goal is not to put anyone in jail. I also want to make clear that who would be receiving this misdemeanor? It wouldn't be the poor cashier that's working the regular 9 to 5. They will not be the one receiving the fine or misdemeanor. No crap. I mean, who actually thought that? It would be the business itself because how the language is listed, it considers businesses as an entity like a person. I support the opportunity to be able to use cash in downtown Detroit versus a credit card because when you use a credit card, you're already paying fees and taxes, and then the merchandise that you're purchasing in these venues already are taxed with taxes and fees. So 2 things to note there. Why this is important, because Detroit, it's a city, right? Thinking about this in a city is kind of a big thing, right? Think about a city, because the cities are going to be the ones that go cashless first, and people aren't going to be surprised at all, right? There's other stories out there about Seattle, how the majority of the city continues to move towards being cashless. It's no surprise because it's Seattle, but that's what we're headed towards with cities. The other thing is the fees, right? Credit card fees, we all know about credit card fees. You'll see those things begin to be waived in the future. Also, ATM fees are going to go up. So in other words, when you try to withdraw cash from an ATM, whatever the percentage is now, you could imagine to be triple, quadruple to make people not want to withdraw money. And then on the other side of it, when you get a fee for using your credit card and a tax, they'll likely start removing those and say, we're going to remove the tax, the credit card companies remove the tax and the fees, and they'll keep pumping it out there so people are more inclined to use, to bank online, to use credit cards, to go cashless in stores, et cetera. It's going to be a deceptive practice, as everything they do is. And when they incentivize people, they tend to fall into place, right? They incentivized people a few years ago, giving out free gift cards, giving out free McDonald's, giving out free lap dances, all if you put poison in your, excuse me, all if you know what, to yourself. But that's what the government does. So you'll see those fees waived in the future. And again, they'll make ATMs, they'll say, oh, it's harder and harder for us to print money and et cetera, et cetera. They'll come up with some BS excuse, just like the excuse they had where the money's dirty and it was transmitting people to get the common cough, et cetera, a few years ago. Oh, we can't have cash. Oh, we can't have coins. It's making people sick, right? Oh, yeah, all done by design, of course. So they want to get it out of circulation. So they will increase the ATM fees at some point. So it's so ridiculous that people won't want to take money out. But they have to be careful, by the way, because because some people might be like, you know what? I'm taking my own money out of the bank and I got to pay a fee, where they want to take all their money out of the bank. But again, they'll make sure currency doesn't matter at some point, cash currency. So Kay Bowman, who spoke on behalf of the Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance, opposed the ordinance, calling it poor policy that does nothing to help elevate our city, but instead offers criminal penalties to small business owners who have done nothing but try to adjust to the tough times. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Why can't you have cashless and cash? It's unbelievable. How could you have an excuse not to accept cash? This is penalties against business. Well, then just accept cash. It's not even expensive. You can get you could literally, you don't even need any type of machine. You could have a box and you could do the transaction with a calculator. Like you ever buy something at a farmer's market or the side of the road, you're buying tomatoes or something, right? The person has a calculator and cash. They seem to be doing okay. But again, they're not Gen Z. They actually can count. So, well, they do use a calculator, I should say. But, you get the point. I don't even know if Gen Z can use a calculator. So the person's going to say they've been dealt with in the form of a pandemic and now a slow economy. Might we offer an incentive to businesses instead of a penalty who provide reverse ATMs? Could the city actually invest in reverse ATMs, much like our local arenas have done? Could we work with the plethora of local banks here on ways to offer products to ensure all Detroiters are actually banked? So this woman here clearly, I don't know if she's in on it, but she's got the New World Order agenda ingrained in her, trying to get all Detroiters banked when a lot of them, they're doing it by choice. They don't want anything to do with the bank. They don't trust the government. And then obviously the other thing that she mentions is getting the reverse ATMs, which is what I mentioned earlier, getting these kiosks in there where they can put their money into a machine. That cash that goes in the machine never gets recirculated, because they're trying to get cash and coins out of circulation. So they're doing a lot of different sneaky maneuvers to do that, to get cash out of circulation. So good news, bad news, but just something I wanted to cover because it's rare that you actually see anywhere where they're talking about, well, people don't want to bank or people want to still use cash. You hear it the other way. The mainstream media reports on it. They're like, what dinosaurs are using cash? What dinosaurs are walking around with cash? What's cash? Right? Gen Z doesn't know what cash is. And they go on and on, plant seeds that way. So this to me is a positive in a world of many, many negatives, but I obviously know nothing good eventually ever comes of these things. The government will probably just step in and put the reverse ATM kiosk in every business on behalf, of goodwill, they'll call it. But we'll see where this stuff goes. Ends up going nowhere. But good to see at least, some stories out there where there's a little bit of pushback against their New World Order plans, and we know 2030 is the plan. So if we could extend past that, that would be great. At least it'll give this generation of the old croaks out there, or the old farts out there, a chance to croak instead of seeing their New World Order come to life. I thank everyone for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families.